It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Larry P. Arnn, the 12th president of Hillsdale College. President Arnn received his PhD in government from the Claremont Graduate School and also studied at the London School of Economics and at Worcester College, Oxford University. While at Oxford, he served as Director of Research for Sir Martin Gilbert, the official biographer of Winston Churchill. President Arnn is on the board of directors of the Heritage Foundation, the Henry Salvatori Center of Claremont McKenna College, Americans Against Discrimination and Preferences, the Center for Individual Rights, and the Claremont Institute. He is a member of the American Political Science Association, the Mount Pelerin Society, the International Churchill Society, and the Philanthropy Roundtable. Dr. Arnn and his wife Penny have 4 children, Katie, Henry, Alice, and Tony. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Arnn.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome 50th and 60th reunion class. You guys look young. I'm not just flattering you. Next year, the chairman of the board is going to be 50. He looks a lot older than you guys do. And Dave Pringle right there, if you see lightning in a movie, he makes it. And so it's kind of fashionable, isn't it? There's some civilians up there. Who are you guys? Are prospective students? Is that who that is? And your parents? And you're admitted students, or are you something else? Admitted. And so you're trying to find out where you're going to go. So I wouldn't come here. And I'm a little disgruntled with the senior class this year because, God, there's a lot of them. So the college is too big. We don't need you. And then O'Sullivan back there, I'm saying this for the faculty members who have him in class. There's imminent danger that he's going to become the 6th person in 25 years to get a 4-point. Somebody fix that, would you? But do you see what it means, what I just said? This place is hard. I'm not sure you want to undertake this. Welcome. Yeah, it is hard. I mean it. It's also fun, but it's hard. I finished my senior dinner. Penny and I finished our senior dinners last night at our house, and I want to give you a quick report. Last year it was hard to top because Cody Summer is capable of playing the tap dancing and playing the fiddle at the same time, and he claims incapable of doing them separately. And so that was a wonderful act. But last night there was a rival because Tim Allen, a member of the best student band I've ever heard, Pickled Beats, and he's in some other one that's playing at Central Hallpalooza and says it's good too, but we'll see. So he wanted to sing 2 songs last night with his guitar, and he can sing very well. And so he asked me to choose between Mac the Knife and Fly Me to the Moon. And I said, well, it's got to be Fly Me to the Moon, because Mac the Knife is a story about a German murderer. And so my senior class, a wonderful group, several of these top 10 there last night, and they cried out for the murder song. So I'm not sure we're good for these kids. I thank you, senior class, for what you brought to the college. It's precious and good. There's a lot of achievement in this bunch. Lorraine is going to Oxford, and UVA gave her the best scholarship they got, and then because she's going to Oxford, they put it off for 2 years. She can keep it, come later to UVA, so she's going to cover herself in glory. And Professor Garniops tells me last night that she won some national championship in Latin or Greek. Joe, Latin? Greek. Yeah, it's all Greek to me. And I can't figure out about Bailey Lindner because she's higher up on the list than Garrett West, who's very high, and somehow she's sweet on him, and I can't get to the bottom of that. It shows charity in the senior class, doesn't it? We've had a good year this year. We're going to have a surplus. Admissions is active and energetic, and there's a large increase in the number of applicants, and we already have too many, so as I say, we don't need you. So we hope that that will continue and grow and get stronger yet. We got plenty of problems, of course. Seems like every year now some old and well-known liberal arts college closes. The ones that remain open don't really do what we do anymore. That's what you have to understand. There's some things to know. If you know them, they'll make your life. They're the greatest things there are. To learn them is hard. The purpose of liberal education is to teach those things. We can't teach them to you. You have to learn them. It's harder to do that than almost anywhere else you could go, just because to address yourself to all of that, it's a monumental thing. And I've been having these dinners, and we got another one still to come with these seniors, and they all come up to me and they all say, my life is better and different because of this. Isn't it a shocking and amazing thing that that is decaying and being abandoned nearly everywhere? Indeed, it turns now to the place where the question is, will it be legal to continue to do that, or will there be requirements that people, young people, these seniors, those up there thinking of coming, that they have to be treated like factors of production, that the reason we spend money on them is so that they can make us rich and benefit us. They're not ends to themselves anymore, most places. I mean, among the best people at all places, they still are. But by and large, in most places, isn't it true that you're taught at the same time that you should study whatever you want to study because you're the center of the universe, but also at the same time that there's got to be a standard set of evaluations for every college so we can compete with China in the next century? I've never seen that so oppressive as it is right now. Finds its way into regulation, affects what we do here in some ways. Makes me value what we do here more than anything, because it is so precious. We get to know each other. We get to do these things together that can only be done together. We have the freedom to do that. What we do radiates everywhere now in the country. All over the place, people know what Hillsdale College is. They think of it as a kind of a remaining hope. I get that everywhere I go. And the reason is because of everybody in this room right now. We have the privilege to do that and the responsibility that comes from that privilege. I've been telling these seniors, you're not to forget that. You owe the things you've done the rest of your life. You have to give it. And you up there, come here for love. It will reward you beyond anything that could possibly happen. And if you can't come for that, don't come. Hope you do. Okay, the Daughtry Award is given in the spring for a senior faculty member. In the fall for a junior. The list of those who've received it, a very honorable and noble list, is in your program. The Daughtry Award comes from an anonymous gift from Susan McNear. Her grandmother was Emily Daughtry. Susan did not want her name mentioned, but darn, she thought of this whole thing. She thunk the whole thing up. And she did it, by the way, by coming here and sitting in classes and going to Convocation. And so she funded this thing, and so I'm just following her orders in every respect but one. She didn't want her name said. This semester's recipient is a touching person, and touching that she should receive this. Now, she graduated from Hillsdale College in 1971, 3 years before John Cervini did that, which means I think she's probably the longest serving person on the campus right now. She got her master's degree in 72, and she came immediately to work here. And then she finished her PhD, both of those degrees at the University of Michigan in 1980. She was promoted associate in 84, and she was promoted professor in 91. And she's been chair of the Modern Language Department since she was chair from 1986 to 2002. And she's still chair of French. Isn't that true? If not, I hereby appoint her that. And the terrible thing is she's retiring this year. Also, Will Morrissey and Ryan Zeller are retiring, and Dan Sundahl has retired, so those are all grievous blows. And this is a bad one because, you know, I love Ryan and I love Will, but they're not nearly as nice as Ellen. And she gives rise to generations of young people who mention her name to me years later as having been important to them and made them better. That's her legacy. It's too bad that it's coming to an end, her teaching here, but I may tempt her back a lot because I'm certainly going to try. Please congratulate Dr. Ellen Justice Templeton. So it might have been Blackstock who thought up this part of it. If not, it was Susan McNear. But the department gets some money because they were afraid the department would be jealous that the professor got some money. And we have internal controls at the college, so I can't give the money to the chairman of the department because she's, you know, doing both jobs here. So Marie-Claire Morelec in the French department is going to receive that, and you get this lovely certificate. Congratulations. I always forget that. That fortunate man right there is Gene, Ellen's husband. Okay, our speaker today is, how long has he been here? He's actually 325 years old now. He's a Youper, and he was last year's Professor of the Year. He is one of the best here. He was provost when I came here, and so I know him really well. I disappointed him in so many ways, and one of them is I stopped sending out the turtles. He loves chocolate turtles. I mean, he's insane for them. It was like a ceremony when he gave me my box of chocolate turtles with the encouragement that I make them the annual college gift to the donors. And I haven't done that, but do I get, I mean to give you turtles from time to time. Do I? I give him turtles, yeah. So that's his way, right? He loves snow, he loves skiing, he loves boats, he loves to fall through the ice into frigid water and almost die. He's a lawyer. Where'd you go to law school? Where'd you go to law school, Bob?
Ohio Northern.
Oh, yeah. Do we pronounce it Pettit, or is it the Petty School of Law? Can you tell I like this guy? He taught me about college, probably more than anybody else, because what do I know about college except by doing it, because I never did it before I came here. And his way is very well known to me and much admired. He's a nice man. He's tough, plenty tough. But like if you're going to do something that's really stupid, the difference between him and Whalen is Whalen will say, you know, that's really stupid. Whereas what Blackstock will say, well, we'll think about that, he'll say. And I came to understand what that meant. It meant that we weren't going to think about it. He's married to Jackie. Is Jackie here today? She should be. Yeah, there she is. And he's got Thomas and Chris and Sarah. And they're all beautiful children. They're all very successful children. I was just hearing about it. And Thomas and Chris look like Blackstocks, and Sarah has bright red hair. And so she was raised by her two older brothers thinking for a long time that she had been brought by aliens. And then she got too old to believe that anymore, so they persuaded her for some years that she was adopted, but that mother and father didn't want to talk about it. I give you the Professor of the Year, Robert Blackstock.
Thank you for that generous introduction. All true. President Arnn, Dr. Whalen, esteemed deans, distinguished visitors, visiting class of the 50 and 60 years ago, beloved students and colleagues, good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm honored. I will tell you this has been humbling. And it's manifestly unjust that the graduated seniors who gave me access to this podium are not here today to endure my remarks, leaving you, I think, only that fading hope that I'll be brief, which I will try to be. And what about you seniors that are all decked out to graduate as if we're going to let that bad thing happen? Yeah. An educated mind beholds a universe, proclaimed Petrarch, embellishing perhaps on the dictum of the more famous words by Seneca, and of course suggesting that the educated mind sees things that the undeveloped mind does not. That as we look out on the chaos that is life, the developed mind sees patterns, it sees realities and relationships that the undeveloped mind simply cannot see. For instance, while the ancients looked upon the starry heavens and saw only random movement of the stars and planets, some eventually came to see patterns and the means of navigating the globe. While 19th century surgeons saw only rising death tolls, some eventually came to see the need for sterile surgery. While many today see only random mountains of market data, some see strategies for protecting assets and making them grow. And while some see only the chaos that is human activity, others see the principles of freedom and prosperity. There are at least three insights we can take from Petrarch's dictum. One, that each generation needs to be educated anew. That insights gained in one generation can be lost in the next, and that a complex mind needs not only fullness, but balance and proportion among the parts. Permit me a few words about forgotten insights. And it's not that we've completely forgotten them, of course. It's rather that our generation, in these examples, I think, has come to not take them seriously anymore. For instance, earlier generations understood, I think, more fully than we do, the nature and the importance of our bifurcated character. That because we are created in the image of God, we're capable of great good. But because we are fallen, we're also capable of great evil. And that policy that understates our basic goodness unnecessarily limits our freedom and the ability of good people to do good things. And that policy that understates our capacity for evil leaves us vulnerable to that evil that is ever at our side and within. And earlier generations understood more clearly than ours that our fate and our future is in very large measure determined by our character. Our character as individuals, our character as a nation. And that character must be built, and that people of sound character can be counted on to take whatever life throws at them and make the best of it. And that people of unsound character can't be counted on for much of anything. And our forebears understood not only that character must be built, but the primary builder of character is the family. So you ask, why do I belabor these points? Well, consider this. For a broad swath of American people, the family is in a state of collapse. If you're not familiar with this data yet, research the percentage of babies born last year to young, uneducated, single mothers, and the relationship of that to poverty. And know that not too many years ago, there were countless organizations in the United States that took it as one of their high purposes to build character. Churches, virtually all schools, private and public, countless civic organizations, all took it as a high purpose to build character. Many of those organizations no longer exist, and those that do are having an increasingly difficult time pursuing that high purpose, that part of their mission. Think here of the Boy Scouts, and not for the reason you're probably thinking, but because you have here a civic organization that's trying to do a hard thing in a culture that's lost interest in the project, building character. And consider the economic collapse of 2008. The thing was entirely self-inflicted. And think for a minute of all the greed and corruption, high and low. Note the arrogance, the imprudence, and the hubris. Find, if you can, a hint of prudence in a 30-year federal policy that required banks to make loans to people who in all probability would not be able to repay those loans. And recall, too, that leading up to that collapse, we'd reinstituted the mark-to-market rule that had had such a devastating effect on the collapse of 1980. It appears we cannot be taught. The collapse of 2008 was produced by a people of withered character and was made possible only by a view of human nature that earlier generations would have found laughable. And I think earlier generations had greater faith. Faith in God, faith in universal principles of right and wrong, and faith that with hard work we can be better people than we are. They understood that without a firm and reliable sense of right and wrong, we will be governed increasingly by a Nietzschean will to power. But enough of this. Let's turn to what's actually the primary point of my remarks, and that's that universe promised by Petrarch, that full mind that can perceive that universe. Let us seek that full universe. Let us pull back those blinders and embrace that inner scholar. Now and ever, take that course in Victorian literature or vertebrate zoology or an economic history of the United States or the history of the Middle East or the Far East. Do yourself a favor and take that 1-hour seminar in personal finance. Oh, and with all those robots nipping at your heels, maybe something in psychology or philosophy wouldn't be a bad idea either. And commit, not only to the contemplative life, but to the active life, and to wholeness. Studies show that commitment is the primary determinant not only of ethical conduct, but of sound marriages, and yes, that New Year's resolution to get in shape. And repellent though it may seem, embrace that wider world and all of its flaws. And please do fix those broken policies and those flaws. But keep in mind and just be warned that my generation leaves you a mess. But as you embrace that wider world, remember to keep those many and growing parts of your mind balanced and in proportion. And especially cherish and guard those things that are closest to you and which bring so much meaning to all that you do. For me, of course, this starts with a knowing and loving touch of my beautiful wife, to whom I owe so much. Cherish your families. Remember this, you will never hear anyone say, gee, I wish I hadn't invested so much in myself and my family. You will never hear anyone say that. You'll also never hear anyone say, gee, but you take my point. And guard your faith. Ours is a season of questioning and rising unbelief, but know that there have been seasons of unbelief before ours and there will be others after. And remember that the leap of faith to unbelief is at least as great as the leap to belief. And keep in mind the beauty and the grace and the strength and comfort that reside in thoughtful and humble faith. And cherish this community for the beautiful thing that it is. The shared search for truth and excellence and for beauty and the good, the striving, the flaws and the failings, the friendships, the honesty and humility, the forgiveness, the love, the compassion, the humor. And so you ask, how many philosophers does it take to change a light bulb? Well, it takes two. One to change a light bulb, the other to research what Aristotle had to say about changing light bulbs. I'd like to close with a few lines from Wendell Berry. Professor Berry is a professor of English and, in his spare time, a farmer. And as I read these lines, I want you to keep in mind that he knows full well that we need to embrace that wider world, that there are, for instance, right now, bad people out there planning to do us harm, and they have to be dealt with. But as we come to grips with that wider world, let us not lose sight of those things that bring meaning and purpose to life. Professor Berry writes, "This is a book about heaven, but I must say too that it has been a close call, for I've wondered sometimes if it would not finally turn out to be a book about hell, where we fail to love one another for reasons all too abundantly provided, or for righteousness' sake, or for pleasure, where we destroy the things we need the most, where we see no hope and have no faith, where we must lose everything to know what we have had. But as Jaber's life transpires, he sees more each day that hope provides for him and for those around him, and to realize with John Dryden that love is love's reward." Thank you.